I'll never forget the way she smiled that morning. It was the kind of smile you give someone you've already buried in your mind. I thought it was just another rough patch, a transient storm we'd weather together. But when she placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table, her eyes were too calm, her voice too measured. 13 years, she said, her tone brittle but unwavering. It's over. I stared at her, searching for some trace of the woman I once loved. All I saw was someone already halfway out the door. My mouth went dry, words tangled in my throat. I wanted to argue, plead, maybe even fight. But something in her gaze told me none of it would matter. Fine, I whispered, my fingers trembling as I reached for the pen. If that's what you want. Her shoulders relaxed, released, like she'd been holding her breath for years. Maybe she had. I signed my name with numb detachment, the ink drying faster than my resolve. I wanted to hate her. I should have hated her. Instead, I felt only the ache of emptiness. Days blurred into weeks, my world reduced to hollow routines and sleepless nights. I tried to move on, but the silence was suffocating. Friends reached out, offering words of comfort, but I waved them away. Loneliness had become my closest companion. Then, one evening, I saw them. I'd forced myself out of the house, determined to drown my misery in cheap whiskey and greasy food. Instead, I stumbled upon the two of them, nestled in the dim corner of La Riviere, the very restaurant where we'd spent anniversaries whispering promises we never kept. My ex-wife now laughed at something he said. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard in years. And suddenly, the numbness cracked, releasing something darker. Betrayal. Pure and corrosive. I watched them for longer than I should have, studying the ease of their affection. The way his hand rested possessively on hers. How her gaze softened for him in ways it hadn't for me in so long. I left before the fury could consume me. But not before noticing the wedding band still coiled around her finger, gleaming under the soft glow of the chandelier. Back home, the anger festered, poisoning every thought until sleep became a distant memory. I replayed every argument, every cold night spent lying inches apart yet miles away. But no matter how many times I dissected our marriage, I couldn't escape the sense that there was something just beyond my grasp. And then I found it. The emails. Her phone left unlocked in our rush to finalize the separation. His messages were there, shameless and explicit. Plans of a life they had already built behind my back. But it wasn't the words that destroyed me. It was the dates. Their affair hadn't just been months in the making, it had been years. Years of betrayal. Years of lies. Years of making me feel like the problem. Something snapped inside me. Not the kind of break that leaves you weak and defeated. No, this was something colder, sharper. I started gathering evidence. The late nights, the business trips that never made sense, the inconsistency she brushed aside with irritation whenever I asked. It all began to fit together, piece by ugly piece. But one detail stood out above all the others. One sickening truth I couldn't ignore. Our son, Michael. The boy I had raised, adored, and shaped my life around. His birth had been a miracle, a blessing I thought had strengthened our marriage. But now, doubts gnawed at me like parasites. It took weeks to muster the courage. Weeks of endless research and hollow attempts to prepare myself for what I feared most. But when the DNA results finally arrived, they shattered me. Michael wasn't mine. I had been nothing but a caretaker, a placeholder while she indulged in her little fantasy. 13 years of fatherhood erased in the blink of an eye. I could have let it destroy me. Could have crumbled under the weight of betrayal and grief. But instead, I sharpened those emotions into a weapon. The night I confronted them was clear and uncomfortably warm. I chose La Riviere for poetic justice. I wanted her to feel the same soul-crushing humiliation she had fed me for years. They were celebrating. Toasting their freedom over overpriced wine and smug laughter. His hand slid along hers, fingers entwined like lovers with nothing to hide. I approached their table with a smile I didn't feel. Their laughter died the moment they saw me, her eyes widening with something that might have been guilt or maybe fear. "Congratulations on your freedom," I said, my voice smooth and composed. I slid an envelope across the table, letting it rest between their glasses. "I thought you both deserved to see this." She frowned, her hand hesitating before picking up the envelope. His expression was nothing but confusion. "What is this?" she asked, her voice a thin whisper. "Read it." The seconds stretched, her eyes skimming the document. Her face paled, the color draining as if the paper itself had stolen her blood. His confusion turned to concern, then to panic. This can't be true," she stammered, her voice splintering under the pressure. "Oh, it's true," I said, feeling a grim satisfaction wrap itself around my pain. "All those years you let me believe he was mine. All those nights I held him while you whispered your sweet lies. But the truth is right there, in black and white." Her lover looked at her, betrayal now painted across his face. The tables had turned, and she was the one left exposed. Vulnerable. I leaned in, my gaze steady. "I spent years trying to be the man you wanted, twisting myself into something you could love. But you were never worth it." Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked away, my footsteps sure and steady. Behind me, their voices rose into desperate, pleading chaos. As I stepped into the night air, the weight of grief and anger began to lift. I had my justice. But more than that, I had reclaimed myself. No longer a victim. No longer broken. Just a man finally free.